Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Appropriate Practices lecture. And basically, what this lecture has done, or what this whole content is about, is it takes all of the practices that everyone and kind of the habits and the things that people do in the realm of movement, and it categorizes them as appropriate or inappropriate. And what it was intended to do was be kind of it really was a pamphlet back in the day where you could hand out appropriate practices, and it could say, take a look at these 15 things. And now there's many more, but 15 to 17 to 27 things or whatever that you do, and see if you're doing it on the more appropriate side or the inappropriate side, and kind of determine if there's ways that you can change the way that you implement curriculum or you implement your practices or your workouts to benefit the participant. And so it started, let's see, we have some great details, and all of these informational pieces are available on Canvas. And so this Shape America, which stands for the Society of Health and Physical Educators, it seems like it's super pigeonholed for physical education, but it's actually this really amazing umbrella association for the United States that is all things health and movement. So it not only is it health educators and physical educators, but within that, there's also high school, middle school, and elementary school divisions. There's also athletics division. There's a coaching division. There's a sports psychology division. There's athletic administration. There's admin itself, leadership, all sorts of different divisions. So it really is this all-encompassing place where people who instruct in the realm of movement go for professionalism. So basically it took, and none of this is, I just want to kind of show you this so you can use this as a resource, but this is the appropriate instructional practice guidelines. And it's got all of this content area in here: class organization, competition and cooperation, assessments, professional growth, all these different types of things in these categories. And basically, it provides you kind of with all the detail about this. You can see up here the learning environment, as far as that's actually the content here. This one is exercises, punishment, and we're going to talk about each of these things. Some safety considerations, competition, cooperation, like I said before, class organization, expectations for learning, those types of things. And what I've given you on Canvas also is a kind of a cheat sheet that's super helpful for you. And I'll try to go through and clarify and provide some specific examples for different content areas. But basically, this is I think there's 17 things on the left over here. Some of them are super specific to PE, and then some, it is important that you take the pieces from the inappropriate practice and apply it to whatever you want to do, so that you can make those really good content related, activity involvement related decisions for your participants. So if you wanted to print this off or use this as a resource while I'm going through this, that would be wise. So basically, you're going to see the content, and the great thing, the beauty of having this recorded is that I can just go and you can pause when needed. And so it'll be, a shorter lecture than if you're actually in class, which is maybe one benefit of the whole Zoom world that we were in. So basically what you're going to see is an inappropriate piece, and I'll give you some examples, and then the appropriate counterpart to each of these things. So this is important that people kind of look at this no matter what you're teaching. So inappropriate curriculum. So what are you teaching? What are you bringing into your practice, to your workout? What are the types of things that you are expecting your participants to do? And are they large-sided? So does that mean that you're going to have like 11 people on a team or in a line? Large-sided games or activities. So, 10 on 10, 8 on 8, 11 on 11. Sometimes at my gym, if there's 40 people there, it'll be 20 in a line with one medicine ball that we're passing. And so we're going to talk about the appropriate counterpart to that. And we've talked about it a lot in class. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of overlap with things like the criteria for learning experience, which is touted as one of the most important lectures ever. So the 3 criteria: does it teach something? Is it doing maximum participation or maximum engagement? And is it at the appropriate level for your participants? So there'll be a tremendous amount of overlap, because those 3 criteria govern pretty much everything as far as appropriateness. So here, Two inappropriate ways are large-sided games where there's not a ton of participation. There's a long line. There's a lot, lots of people, 5 on or 7 on 7, 10 on 10, 11 on 11, one class versus another class where there's, all of these people in one ball or one piece of equipment. And then the other inappropriate content, it's inappropriate just because there's so much more out there, is that doing what the teacher or the coach or whatever knows and likes and just has done forever. So we have so much at our disposal on YouTube, so you can just get out there and learn new things, learn better ideas, get people engaged, make activities smaller. And that's obviously the appropriate counterpart. So anything that's driven by professional standards in whatever field or frameworks, we have one in particular in physical education and health that's amazing. Anything that helps you develop lots of activity in an appropriate scope and sequence, not just like throwing things together. Oh, Wednesday we're going to do this and Thursday we're going to do this. Where are you going? What's your goal? And what are the pieces that you're going to do to establish kind of getting there? If there's a race that you're training someone to run, or you're training someone for some kind of a competition, what are the things that are needed to get there, and put those in a sequence that makes sense? That's obviously the appropriate place. And then give lots of people lots of practice. So motor skill development, and that's pretty much involved in everyone's field in this class. So we want to make people better at something, better, stronger, faster, some more skillful. And so to do that, it is important that we avoid the inappropriate practice, which is games and activities that don't allow for individual practice. So anything that has long lines or lines, if there's a way that you can eliminate weighting altogether, typically, number one, that means that they're involved in a skill development more. And if they're involved more, they're cardiovascularly involved more, which is typically required for most games, sports, and activities. And so it's kind of a double whammy there of goodness. So anything that you can do, baseball, for years, because my daughter's 14 now, my son is 8. And my daughter, we've coached my daughter for a long, long time now. She's kind of moved on in travel ball type stuff. And now we're coaching my son. But we see all the other fields where there's like one kid and then 11 people in line as the coach is hitting it to the hitter. And a lot of times the fielder, a lot of times I'll see the coach hitting it, and the actual shortstop or whatever will field it and throw it to first base. Who's a coach catching it? So it's like you're not even putting someone at first base to catch. So literally it is one person performing while everyone else is waiting. We need to do better. We need to figure out ways where, I understand the value of the game-like setting, but when one pitcher and one hitter and then everyone else is standing and everyone else is sitting in the dugout because you're trying to kind of prepare them for the game, there's just so many better ways to do that. I understand plays. I understand that you've got to, they've got to get there, but I see people doing it in T-ball and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's a snooze fest. There's like 5 and 6-year-olds standing in the field and they're not learning because they're too young. It's not developmentally appropriate for them to learn positions and coverages. So think about what it is that they need to learn and give them lots of practice doing it. So what is it that age and skill appropriate activities and lots of individual reps, and individual practice comes from a modified, focused, changed, refined, adapted environment that is specifically designed for activity, time, and engagement. And that's super important in all of the fields. Sitting around and waiting, you don't learn. You learn by participating. And so that's why we want to get people in small-sided appropriate activities. Cognitive development is big. No matter what you're going to do, I would say 90% of the people in this class are going to be doing something where it is appropriate and should be required that you include some cognitive development with things. If you're in a gym and you're doing warm-ups, you can talk about muscle groups. You can talk about antagonist muscle groups. You can talk about flexibility and how that contributes to lots of things when it's important. Any information that you can give that cognitively helps people perform better, enhances their understanding in some way, shape, or form. That's the goal here. So the inappropriate way is to just not include it at all. And I see that a lot of times in all kind of the fields that we're in. Just because you're in the health field and you're there to get them, fit and move on with their hour. After their hour, they just move on with their life. Doesn't mean that you can't, talk to, I see mostly that we talk about modified activities. So if you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. But you can also, there's also so many opportunities to learn about anything, water intake, proper resting time. The reason that the exercises are structured on certain days, like the things that you do on certain days and then what you follow it with. There's all some cognition to that and understanding. And though you don't want to give away all the pieces, some people are like, I'm out of here, I'm going to take what I learned and do it myself, which they can't do. It is important that the cognition is always there. And in physical education and in liberal studies and in, if you're in any kind of educational setting, you should always include this every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not including some content in physical education about cognition. So even when I'm in tournaments, I get to the end of my units, I'm in a tournament, I'll teach referee signs. I'll teach how to ref a game. I'll teach tournament brackets and all the different kind of bracketing apps that we have and ranking and all of the things that can come with that. There's no reason why that we're just playing. We need to be learning all of the time. And so for PE people, that's the standard that's set for you. If you want to be amazing, that's the standard that you should meet. Almost always include cognitive development. I always do, but sometimes there's Fun Day Friday, but you can still learn on Fun Day Friday. But literally, if you have movers, if you're a coach, obviously you want to teach them how to play the game. So you don't have to sit there and tell them, if you're the type of person that's on the sidelines, constantly screaming, perhaps, telling them what to do, pass it here, she's open, do the lane. Maybe teach more and say less during the game. And then if you teach more, you'll get to say less during the game. So cognitive development is extremely important. Affective domain the affective development is, I have a lengthy story that I will spare you from, but the sweet spot or the small version of this is that when I first started teaching, I taught elementary for 3 years and I was miserable and I did a horrible job and I almost quit the field altogether. What is happening? I can't find it there. And so I started to work on behavioral management. I started to get every book that I could. And again, long story short, I almost quit. And then someone asked me what I was doing in the affective domain to teach my students to work together. And I was like, I just want to make people skillful and fit, and I don't have time for that. And ultimately, I ended up learning that if I can't get a group to work together, can't get a team to work together, you can't get, any kind of people that you're working with to work together, you achieve less in the long run. So I learned kind of the hard way by almost quitting that I have to teach my population how to work together in order to achieve much, much more. And so the very next year, I put in a giant 4-week social skills unit and taught people how to work together. And it was so out of my comfort zone. I was talking about how to cooperate and what does it feel like when you cooperate. And I was able to turn that into teamwork and, how does a team succeed? And there's roles for everybody and leadership roles and following roles. And those are all important in the success of a group. And it really transformed, it was transformative. It transformed me, it kept me in the field for one thing. But it became this thing that I now kind of try to trickle in all of the place whenever it's appropriate. I will make lessons really, really hard so people have a hard time doing it and can't be successful without support from others so that they have those experiences in working together. If you're having, if you're with a group, especially coaching, they have to work together. They don't have to be friends. They don't have to like each other. They don't have to leave and hang out, but they've got to find a way where they work. And that's the affective domain. And it can't be ignored. It usually just gets worse. And I think social media is like the fuel on any flame. And so that's inescapable. So it's definitely important to address it. Sometimes emphasize it. Some days you'll have, especially with sports teams, they'll have, team building. And if they're not, if you can't just get together and have a dinner and be like, we're team building, you've got to actually teach. It's a skill. How to work together is a skill. Just like if you're going to teach throwing and catching or a certain lift, you have to teach it, provide feedback, provide practice, the same thing. You have to teach it, provide feedback on whether they're doing those social skills, and let them practice it and put them in situations where they're challenged to utilize those skills. So fitness concepts, and this is was based on physical education. So most of you, if not all of you, grew up in the United States. And so you had some form of fitness test. It was probably the the Fitnessgram at this point, which has kind of a battery of tests. And it's, like the run is like beep, and you get to the other side and you go beep, and then you run to this side, beep. And then the time that you have between beeps gradually decreases. Most of you, probably 90 or more % of you have had that. So basically these inappropriate practices, I think there's 3 fitness related ones because they're really important, stemmed from inappropriate PE and people just kind of throwing together the fitness test and not talking about fitness long term. And I believe it's bigger than that, way, way bigger than just this little fitness unit that we had in PE. I believe, and I'll tell you kind of as we get through it, but let me start with this. The fitness concepts. Fitness tests are required, but the importance isn't addressed. And if we were in class right now, we would have a discussion. I would have you raise hands, how many of you did the Fitnessgram? How many of you just did your test? Because right now, for me, at least when I'm recording this, it's February. And the tests are due February, March, April. So kind of everyone, even my daughter right now, is in fitness testing. And basically what they do is they just do the tests, and then they report the test, and then they move on to something else. And they're not really taught, and I'm not quite sure about my daughter's PE, but typically you're not really taught the importance of each of the concepts. So we're taught, we have to do the sit and reach, but we're not taught about flexibility and the importance of being flexible and what helps you be more flexible and how it helps you with the many things that it does: prevent injury, prepare you for participation. When you get older, it does things. For example, if you have low back pain, you're like, why do I have low back pain? And you may have put a little weight on, which brings low back pain. Or those hamstring muscles might just be not flexible anymore and not lengthened and not used in a way that kind of puts your spine back into the proper position. So I used to tell people all the time that if you just stretch during your, like, whatever your binge watching, whatever comes on, if you watch Law and Order, there's a Law and Order on like every day, just stretch during the commercials of that and you will not have low back pain and you will be more flexible than you are now, especially if you're sitting there going, I am not flexible. You should do that. Super easy. So fitness tests are required, but the importance is not addressed. So we run around, we do the pacer, but we don't address pacing. We don't address how it contributes to running longer, why running longer is important. What does cardiovascular strength do to the heart? How the heart is a muscle. Kids love to learn that the heart's a muscle and that it's the size of their fist. And talking about the more you strengthen a muscle, the more blood it pumps, the easier its job is if it's stronger. And so that information is typically not delivered in the fitness testing unit, when really it's like the perfect place for it. So basically, we just do the tests. They're required. We don't talk about the importance of them. And we skip right over the value of these things and how they contribute to the healthy lifestyles. So that's super important. Anything fitness related should be discussed, at least cognitively in some fashion, how it contributes to a healthy lifestyle. Fitness testing. So again, there's 3 kind of fitness related things, super important. And this is really kind of school-based, but again, all of you went there. If you aren't going to be a teacher, you're going to have kids at some point, probably. If you do have kids, they're probably going to go through some form of fitness testing. And so it becomes kind of everyone's job to make sure that physical fitness testing and the concepts that we teach and that are surrounding these tests are done well. And this is a super important kind of groundwork that we're preparing people for. So if we're talking about physical fitness tests, I just had a panic because I didn't think I was recording. Sorry. It says that the 4 to 6 week unit testing only once or twice, because typically you'll see a pre-test, a unit of, to prepare you for the post-test, and then the post-test, and then we're done. So in and of itself, that's not bad. Just that by itself isn't bad. If you're still obviously doing the cognitive piece, talking about healthy lifestyles and the value of each of these fitness concepts, it's not bad. It is bad if the word only is capitalized here. It is bad if that's the only thing you do. And then the last day of fitness testing, you move on to soccer or you move on to something else and you don't ever talk about fitness again. That I think that, and I mentioned earlier, I think it contributes to a much wider problem that we have in this culture, where we kind of have this get fit quick thing. 4 to 6 weeks, you can get quick, fit quick. And that's really not what consistent, healthy changes are about. And if we say fitness is going to fit in this 4 to 6 week unit, because these fitness tests are required in 5th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade, required federally. So if we do that in 5th grade, and then we go, okay, now we're moving on to the rest of PE, and we do that in 7th grade, and then we do it in 9th grade, and we do it even more consistently in other grades because we're preparing them for those tests. We really kind of help facilitate that notion that fitness belongs in the little tiny package, in this little 4-week package, when really it should be throughout the year. So on my soccer unit, we can talk about flexibility that's specific to soccer. And we can talk about cardiovascular and how the different positions, you have different cardiovascular training and different cardiovascular needs. That is true knowledge and true kind of integration of these types of things. I got sidetracked. I think I was talking about the concepts, but talking about fitness tests, if it's 4 to 6 weeks only, that's inappropriate. If, as I alluded to, it's spread throughout the year, not only conceptually, but also the tests, that's appropriate. So you should have flexibility. You should see how flexibility is affected after soccer. How is it affected after gymnastics? How is it when you need to be more flexible and that the activity that you're performing in requires more flexibility? How does that affect flexibility? And have those conversations, do those assessments. Typically there's like run day Friday, and everyone thinks that that's their ongoing assessment and preparation. And they'll have maybe a push-up test here or there, but typically you want to do things in different ways. This builds your muscles. This helps you with push-ups. This helps you, more importantly, with upper body strength. And why is upper body strength important? So throughout the year, ongoing assessment, ongoing preparation, ongoing discussion, and then that's the appropriate way to do anything really, but specifically fitness testing here. All right, so I'm going to be Dr. Kitchen, the professor, and then Dr. Kitchen, the participant / coach, because I know that this is a tough one to swallow for a lot of people in class, in this class in particular. So fitness as a punishment in the educational system, as a teacher, fitness as a punishment is inappropriate. So running for not dressing, if you forget to turn in a consent form, you've got to run. Anything related to behavior, misbehavior is not appropriate. So basically in the educational world, we want to never use fitness as a punishment. Use it as a way to get better, stronger, faster, healthier. So increase personal fitness levels and promote lifelong positive, healthy attitudes. So that's bold-faced and underlined. It's super duper amazingly important. I also think that this has a little bit to do with contributing to, if you have this mentality where you've put on some weight and you're like, I need to go running. It's almost like you're punishing yourself for these decisions that you've made, and it's already kind of in there, this punishment cycle of I did this, now I need to suffer through this. And I really don't think that that's the healthiest way to actually kind of approach this type of thing. Now here's kind of the flip side of that. 2 things. Number one, it sneaks its way in, especially in education, in many ways. Like say that you're in a tag game and you tag someone and they have to go out and do jumping jacks and then come back in. And I could tell that the teacher has tried, made an effort to keep them included and not eliminate them because they want them to be active, but then they're using exercise as punishment. So if you are slow, you're going to go out and do jumping jacks and then come back in. So it kind of sneaks its way in. So keep your eye out for that. And number 2, I forgot. Nope. Number 2 was, here's the thing. And I said it earlier, the Dr. Kitchen and then Julie, the coach. Fitness as punishment in sports works. It flat out works. And so in sport, I'm all for it. And if you can find a way to not do it, it'd be amazing. In education, it's completely inappropriate. So try to avoid it all of the time. But in sport, especially I played volleyball. Well, I played lots of things, but I played volleyball, basketball, college. But in volleyball, if you let the ball hit the ground without diving, everybody was running. Or worse yet, we did what was called boards, and it was a 2x4 wrapped in carpet, and you had to do the lines with pushing that. It was just a nightmare. Not my favorite exercise, but it made us jump, dive on the floor. People were all over the place, and that would be a place where fitness as punishment works in sport, and that's not something that you would do in physical education. Assessment across the board. Typically assessment is important. In sports, we take stats like crazy. We've got max preps. We've got, it's all, at this point, digital. There's an app, and, there's all sorts of things that do it for us as far as how we are going to assess our participants. Typically in physical education, it is the standardized test. It's this one test that we're working for. Unfortunately, the one test is typically the fitness testing. And basically it's what this one's a quick and easy one. Don't use one single standardized test. Back in the day when I was young, we had the president's test. And basically the president's test was used to determine the top 10 most fit kids in the country. But we were never told that. We got a patch or a certificate, and, the president signed it, not really, but, the president's signature is on the certificate. But it wasn't really helpful in creating, appropriate fitness and appropriate healthy attitudes. It was just kind of this big giant contest that we never knew about. Currently, the Fitnessgram does a little bit better because it's doing these healthy fit zones, but there's a lot of problems with kind of the gender identification in this test. And we're moving currently to kind of changing that finally, so that we can kind of do a better job of telling people how fit they are and where they in the fit and healthy zone, and not worry about lots of things that are having to be problematic right now. So the easy way to talk about assessment is don't use just one standardized test. So if you're in PE, don't just use the one Fitnessgram, use a whole bunch of different tests. And the beauty of it is that there's so many online. Post-pandemic, we had to do everything online, and now everything's available online. So there's lots and lots of tests that you can literally go onto sites, print them off, and your assessment is ready. And that will help for people, if you're in sport and you want to find ways to kind of drive students to be more engaged and interested in getting better and learning, other than the win-loss record, kind of a personal goals for them. If you go into the physical education world and find assessments, there's lots of different tools already done for you. Literally, you can print them, put in names, put in your parameters, and you're on your way. So there's so much out there. So lesson participation, lesson is used very widely and loosely as far as kind of the hour workout, the practice session, whatever it is. It should maybe just say session participation or just participation. Tremendous amount of overlap. What is this? Why can't I find it? There it is now. Sorry. It's driving me crazy. I can't get it away. Okay. See, I don't get to see you all. So you don't get to know that that's me being me. So anyways, tremendous overlap with the criteria for learning experience. Anything that you're waiting in line, anything that eliminates people from a game. So the game of knockout, super fun in basketball, as far as everybody lines up and one person shoots a free throw. If they miss the free throw, they've got to go get the ball and make it before this person shoots. And if the person second shoots and makes it before this person in front, they're eliminated. I mean, sure, play it, but there's so many different ways. Eliminated kids can go to another game and then start another game. Now you have a whole bunch of people playing. You still got to do something about the line of people, but maybe have several games and then bring the winners to one court and the second place kids here. There's so many things. Just try harder to get kids to not wait around. Anything eliminating, anything waiting in line, anything large-sided where there's 10 versus 10, 11, 11 on 11 soccer for little kids is a waste of time, a giant waste of time. And then games that highlight the best performers. In sport, there's a lot of leeway with that because literally that's what we want. We want the best performers and we want them to come together and get the wins. In PE, this is one of those things that should be pretty much avoided as much as possible. And there's lots of strategies that you're going to be given through your undergraduate program, because it's not about the person who's the fastest And I know that's kind of counterintuitive. People in PE are like, or people in sport are like, well, yes, it is. And the whole world thinks so. In PE, if you need to have goals. So if you're a super fast runner, what is your goal to get better? And if you run a 16-minute mile, what is your goal to get better? So just because, the kid who runs a 9-minute mile, still runs a 9-minute mile at the end of the semester, but the kid who ran a 16-minute mile now runs a 13-minute mile, who should get the A? The best runner or the kid who improved by 3 minutes? So that's kind of what this means, the basis of this kind of participation and where you focus. And this appropriate practice piece feels a little like Pollyanna, like everyone should be involved and moving and active. It sounds like this perfect little cooperative world. It isn't like that. It isn't where we are going, there are no winners and there are no losers. This is one love world. All of those things are true. And there are winners and there are losers, and there is appropriate winning behaviors and there's appropriate losing behaviors, and people are going to fall down and they're going to compete and they're going to lose and they're going to get hurt. And we're going to treat all of those things in appropriate manners when we aren't about highlighting the best and highlighting the winners. You can have tournaments and you can have tournament winners, but it doesn't need to be the biggest thing that has ever hit PE. Of course it is in sport, but PE in the educational realm is a little bit different. If you're in a workout facility, and we do those lines in all our classes where we're passing a medicine ball, we've got the winner. There's lots of ways to make it about, the win, not the winning and the losing. And it's about the exercise and doing it properly, so that everyone can get kind of the same results. There's so many different ways to focus on different important things than who's the best, who's the strongest. So activity selection, game and activity selection, whatever it is that you're selecting to bring into the class. For some of you, this will be silly. You'll think, why in the world would I bring something in that has no real purpose? We typically see that in the education setting most, where, if they're busy, and they're happy and they're good, and you'll see that's in air quotes because that's a term that we use when people don't have any idea what it is that we do in education. They'll come out and they'll watch us and they'll go, yeah, they're busy and they seem happy and they're being good job. And so it's this busy, happy, good that we now deem as the inappropriate way to assess me on the job that I'm doing in PE. So definitely extend past busy, happy, and good. Pick activities that are modified and they're selected to bring something to the table. They're brought in to teach, to maximize learning, to address a need in your class. They're driven by standards. There's so many things that go into game and activity selections, not just busy, happy, good, or the teacher likes this, so I'm going to do this again. Find things that will really drive learning in your class based on the needs of your class. Okay, game rules. For those of you in sport, you're gonna just probably delete me for the next 30 seconds. It is okay, I would say, but just kind of keep one part of your ear open. So just in case there's a way that you can make this work in your realm. For education, and for, and people in the fitness world are really good at this type of thing where they adapt things for different individual people. In education, official rules or adult guidelines, official adult rules, if you use those all of the time, that's the inappropriate way. If in your activity, for example, it does no good whatsoever for a 6-year-old to shoot a 3-pointer over and over and over again. And you may think, well, yeah, they're going to get stronger. And then eventually they're going to be like, no, they're doing a crazy 2-handed body vomiting. I call it the body throw up. Like it's literally like your whole body going bleh to try to get the ball up there. And that does nothing for the actual shot of what a basketball shot should look like. Same thing, take a 7-year-old or 8-year-old or a group of 8-year-olds where they don't have the strength to shoot a free throw. They don't have the strength to serve from 30 feet away in volleyball, but you want them to be able to do those skills. So get them close enough to where they can do it with proper form. Lower the basket if you can. Give them a smaller ball. Of course, all of those are not official rules. If you have a basketball hoop out in the front yard of your house or in your neighborhood, You can shoot a volleyball. It's lighter. You can shoot it from the same form from farther back. And then they're starting to get all of those pieces, because without strength, they cannot do things properly from all of these areas that are 2 points and 3 points and all these different things. So modify everything that you can. It is, if you can't serve from the 30-foot line, maybe you can serve from the 10-foot line. And then the more your success you have, then you move back. And it's called the slanty rope for those of you in education, or if this kind of sparks your interest on how can you make your activity perfect for everyone, is it's called the slanty rope. So if you are, imagine a wall that we're all throwing at, because this is kind of the best way to imagine the slanty rope. There's a wall that you're all throwing at, and there's targets on the wall, and there's a rope that's 10 feet away on this side and a rope that's 40 feet away on the other side of the gym. And you can go anywhere on the rope, but to challenge yourself to be successful. So if you're just learning, you can go 10 feet away. If you're a baseball, softball, football rock star, you can go to 40 feet away and challenge yourself. And so that's kind of the theory of slanty rope, accepting what is appropriate for each of the learners so that they can get better. They can challenge themselves in ways that you don't take the beginner, put them down at 40 feet and ask them to throw 10 times, which they're not going to be successful, not going to enjoy, and not going to do anymore. And you've just defeated the whole reason that you're there, to make them successful and make them want to do it more. So taking activities and games and pretty much everything and modifying it so that people can all be successful. And again, I'm not floating around the world going, you're going to be successful today and you're going to be successful today. I want you to challenge yourself. You're not going to stand at 10 feet away and throw it at a target and hit it 10 times. That is too easy. Move down the line so that now you're 20 feet, maybe 15 feet. Maybe I make the target smaller. Maybe I make the targets bigger. There's a whole bunch of ways to modify activities and clearly modifying games. Super easy ways to modify games. So make sure that you are kind of looking at your performers and what it is that they need to be successful in the games. Because with success comes enjoyment, and with enjoyment comes continued involvement. And that's super important. Like really those enjoyment, involvement, and what did I say? Enjoyment, involvement, continued. Yeah, you're going to love it forever. You're going to stay in activity. So equipment, and again, mostly physical education and kind of the health domain. And basically two kind of things go here. Number one is the number of equipment that you have. The more equipment, the more activity, the better. And then the size of equipment. So, little arms cannot do big adult equipment. And so it's best to have modified individual child size, everybody, or performer size equipment. And we do that really well. I see that in my fitness classes a lot, where people, if there's a beginning exerciser or an older person, there's lots of choices in that room. I feel like the health is kind of knocking out of the field on this one. And it's really kind of a safety factor, not really kind of, it's a safety factor really, to lift things that are too heavy for you, or do activities that are going to put undue and unnecessary strain on your body that do not benefit you. In physical education, we've got really kind of a long way to go, but it's a better idea for, giving a child a giant bat where they can't hold it in the proper position. You can't see me, I can't get in the proper position on TV, but or on the screen. But if they can't lift the bat because it's so heavy, there's no way they're going to get it in a proper swing plane to make contact. I mean, they can't do it. And 9 times out of 10, little kids have a bat that's way too big. I mean, and they've got to the ball's coming and they're trying to lug this bat through and hit it at the right time and set up kind of this plane where it's a little bit easier to make contact. It's a crazy mess out there with the equipment that parents buy for kids, spend tons of money on things that they can't lift up. Super quick one. I know I said super quick earlier and I was not quick. This one's going to be super quick. It's a no-brainer. And I don't really know where it's appropriate. I mean, maybe in sport where confidence is high, but everywhere else, don't do this ever. If you're in PE, don't ever do this. Captains picking teams. It is a gigantic, colossal waste of time. And it is one of the things that people well into their old 50s, 60s, 30s, 40s remember as being horrible. So if there's something that you've done that's as silly as having captains picking teams and people remember it into their 40s, it is not necessary. It wastes a tremendous amount of time to pick like two people and then have this person go pick a person, pick a person, pick a person. Such a waste of time. And see, I've even started talking about this longer than I wanted to. It is, don't do it, waste of time. Just, you can have my favorite way is have people partner up. And that way that like you typically, if there's troublemakers, they partner up and then you say, all right, one Rochambeau. If you're the winner of the Rochambeau, you come here. If you're the non-winner, the loser, you come here. And then now you've just divided it into two teams. It's genius. It works perfect. And then there's all sorts of different ways to do teams. I mean, you can, my favorite is to, like I said, partners. You can have I want the tallest people over here. Just don't do the tallest people against the shortest people in basketball. But if height has nothing to do with the performance, if you're playing ultimate frisbee or whatever, person with brown hair, the person with white shoe, whatever, the person with the longer hair can be on this team. There's so many the person with the first birthday within the year. So if you're a January and a September, the January comes here, the September comes here. Lots of different ways to randomly select teams, and quickly. Sometimes I'll just kind of eyeball everybody and I go, okay, you all are on this team and you all are on this team. And while they're getting their jerseys on or whatever, I'm counting so that I don't have to waste time. And then I'm like, oh, this has 18 and this has 16. So I'm going to move one at the end. Super easy, random. Gender focused activities. You know, I keep thinking that we're going to get far away from this, but then I'll go onto a public school and I'll be like, man, did I just walk through a time warp? You know, maybe a month ago, I was at a PE site and I looked over and there's all these boys playing football. And I look over and there's all these girls in, I think it was inside. So I want to say it was dance, but that's super stereotypical. And I asked, I was like, is this like, what's going on here? And like, well, we gave them the choice. I'm like, yeah, that does not. Everyone, no matter what gender, boy, girl, they, she, he, it doesn't matter. Everyone needs to learn how to play football, throw a spiral. Everyone also needs to learn dance and all the dance steps and all the basic locomotor skills and combinations of locomotor skills, because it's going to make you better at other things. It's going to make you a better mover, all sorts of different things. There should be no boy activities and girl activities, and choice does not provide that for them. Sometimes they'll do choice day and then they'll pick super stereotypical things, and then it'll be like the boys and couple girls and then the girls and then couple boys, and it's just, it doesn't need to be like that. Don't give people the opportunity to divide themselves that way. Just make it everyone does it, equal opportunity, equal access. This activity is for everyone benefits from it, and then it's just not a thing. So this is definitely PE related, and so I will go fast. Recess. So, but for those of you who are if you're going to be parents, if you think you're going to have kids, or you may not think it, but it may be coming, it's important that you know these things for your students, your kids, as they go through these requirements. You have little brothers and little sisters and cousins and nieces and nephews. These are some important rules. Recess cannot be substituted for PE. In a lot of places it is. It's not supposed to. It's against the law, actually. And PE is the only content area that has federally mandated minutes. And those minutes are 200 minutes for elementary every 2 weeks and 400 minutes for secondary every 2 weeks. So every 10 days, you have to get 400 minutes. It is the federal law. And so anything inappropriate, it actually, for me, I feel like it's not enough, but that's okay. The law says that this is how many minutes you have to have. And even in an elementary school, and it's supposed to be by a highly qualified, credentialed physical educator. And so there's a little bit of fibbing on that, but I'm just happy if people get 200 minutes. So I'm just going to stick with that so far. Inappropriate is to not do it or to count recess. Or in many cases, I see people, when you drop kids off early in the morning, they walk the track till everyone, till school starts, the first bell, and then they go. Sometimes schools even count that, which you cannot do. So it has to be actual physical education during the day by a qualified physical educator. So if your people in your life, kids, nieces, nephews, brothers and sisters aren't getting that, somebody's not doing it right. I mentioned this a little briefly when I'm talking about highlighting the best. And so we're talking about competition where winning and losing is identified and emphasized. I don't mean always. I don't mean that it's a bad idea to kind of have a leaderboard. But what it is bad is to be like, look at the leader. They are so great. This is so like they need that. Everybody knows who the best athletes are. Everybody knows who the fastest people are. If you're going to have a leaderboard, make it about individual achievement and where someone started and where they end up, so that it's more about personal goals and achievement. And this, the way that the pamphlet says it, is a little bit fluffy. It's a, we focus on participation and cooperation, and it is important, super duper important, and there is competition. So I never want anyone to think that in any of our realms is they're not, competing is healthy. Talking about appropriate winning and losing behaviors will always be a thing that you'll have to do, especially in education. And participation is extremely important. Goal setting, achieving your goals, those things are really important. And competing against yourself is an important competition so that you can get better and improve. Okay, I tried to go fast. I felt too fast at some places, but yeah, so I hope everything's going well. It's sunny. It looks really nice outside today. So hopefully when you see this, it's sunny and you can get out there and enjoy. I know it's also allergy season. So I hope all is well. Make sure you're checking the calendar so that you know what's coming and what's going. I think there's something important due today. There usually is in Kines 138. So check your calendar and make sure that you are caught up to date on that. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care.